Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Damn Podcast. I am your host, Angie Machado. Joined with me, as always, is beat writer extraordinaire Jake Hedberg. And Ty Boyce is back after a couple out of his control things. I am back in my home office. So you guys, I apologize again for last week. It was horrible. The Hyatt Scottsdale was, the internet was not great. But thank you for bearing with me. Jake handled things perfectly. And we're back in our normal spot, and we have a 1-0 Beaver team to talk about. No more speculation. We got football to talk about. So today's show, we were going to do a recap of Idaho State. We're going to talk a little bit about the players who stood out to us. We're going to preview San Diego State, and then we have a special guest, an outside linebacker, Nico Taylor, who will be joining us as soon as he's done with his football meeting. That is why we pushed this back a little bit. Football scheduled a meeting for 5. Don't they know that is damn podcast time? I'm going to have to sit down with Coach Bray and have a little talk about that. But how are we doing, guys?
Good.
Right.
This is still, you're like, no more speculation. I was like, I have so many questions. I have so many things I want to know about.
I think it did. I think we have some guys in the chat already. Uncle Filthy, Andy Baseball, Digital Dam. Welcome, guys. I think we have a lot to talk about, just what we saw, what we want to see going forward. It didn't answer a lot of questions about the quarterback, to be completely honest. But was that by design? That's a question too. So, Idaho State. Ty, you were up in the stands. Jake and I were at the press box. Was that just the Jam and Hankerson show or what?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if it was, you got to be kind of encouraged by that. I mean, and everybody, you know what? Everybody was there. We watched it on whatever we could. Like, you watched that happen. We all watched 2 running backs run for an excess of 150 yards. Like, that's success no matter how you put it. That's great, you know? But yeah, I'm so curious about a Gunderson offense, how that O-line pass blocks more, how that quarterback deals with more 3rd and longs, you know. So that, I think that's the thing that's going to be exciting this week, you know.
Yeah, Jay, what about you? What were your – let's just talk about Hankerson and Jam for a minute. We saw it during fall camp. Mm-hmm. You know, we saw those two. And then the emergence, too, then of Salahuddin Allah, who came in the 4th quarter. But we've been singing his praises all camp. What were your thoughts of that run game?
Yeah, you know, I thought Oregon State came out and relied pretty heavily on that. I thought Jam Griffin and Anthony Hankerson looked like the backs that we've seen from them the past 9-10 months. I was really impressed by Salah as well. I thought he came in towards the end of that game and really, 59 yards on 7 carries. That's very impressive, especially as a true freshman. I think you're going to see him kind of work his way and take over some of those carries from Jam and Hankerson, because Oregon State is legitimately at this point 3 deep at the running back spot. Jam Griffin, just what a game back, didn't necessarily get the touches he wanted last year at Ole Miss. He came back and he ran like the same Jam that we saw in 22. He was a physical guy, fast, just had a great game, his best game as an Oregon State Beaver.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to veer off here because you talk about that a little bit. You touched on it about Jam, who came back. He, was at Oregon State, left for Ole Miss, came back to Oregon State. Did you guys watch? We have a lot of former Beavers in other places, a lot of former Beaver coaches in other places. Did you guys watch any of the other? Let's see, we had USC has Issa Mascarenas and Akili Arnold. You had Texas with Silas Bolden. Obviously, Sione Lolohea and DJ Uiagalelei at Florida State. Jack Belling and Aiden Childs at Michigan State. Did you guys watch any of those games? Did you catch any of it?
I watched both FSU games and Michigan State game and the USC game.
Honestly, I don't begrudge any of those guys, but do you ever just sit back and look, especially like a guy like Silas, and maybe think he went from being the guy to being a guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, two guys that kind of come to mind with that. The guys not following Coach Smith's, but leaving to chase money and try and improve their shot at the pros. They kind of ended up being another guy, just like you said, is Sione at Florida State. He's kind of, he's got 3 tackles in 2 games. He's not a starter there. I feel like at Oregon State, he would have been the Beavers' best defensive lineman by a pretty marginable amount. And then same with Silas Bolden. I mean, here's a guy who, was Oregon State's number 1 receiver last year, comes in at Texas, doesn't get a catch till the 3rd quarter. He's not a starter there. Did have a nice punt return as always. But, if Silas was here, again, I feel like hands down he's probably the best receiver on this team. He was the best receiver on the team last year, in my opinion. And I think watching him in Coach Gunderson's system, as well as the special teams aspect, which Oregon State, we didn't see anyone take a kick or a punt out yesterday or on Saturday, but with Silas out there, there's always that threat of, oh boy, he might pop one. And, at this point, I wonder if they're questioning their decisions to leave, because I do feel like they might have given up some long-term cash in the NFL for some short-term at the moment.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Go ahead, Ty.
Oh no, it's interesting too. That it's like with no disrespect to Trent Walker too, who's earned us a chance to be there, in the return game, who had a wonderful game as a receiver, and nobody should take anything away from. I think it was 4 catches. That was awesome. It's like, yeah, Silas, like, no matter what, I guess not no matter what, would have very likely received those touches. You know what I mean? And I don't, that's Gould was the punt returner, correct? Silas was the kick returner?
Yeah, but Gould was primarily the kick returner, Silas punts, but Silas did take a punt back last year.
Thank you. But I'm just wondering, I mean, those are touches. Those are significant touches to get your best players the ball in their hands, which is football. And, it's a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, and like I said, no ill will, no begrudging those guys for making the decisions they did. They had lots of reasons for doing so, but it does make you stop and pause. Especially, like I said, then you see someone like Jam who comes back and seems to be having an amazing time. He was all smiles with his little baby girl in the in the post-game press conference. So it just makes you stop. Sometimes the grass is greener, but most of the time it's not greener than where you were at. So anyway, that was just a little tangent I went off of. So were you guys surprised by the amount of running the Beavers did in game 1?
A little bit, the rate at which Oregon State ran the ball, 58-14. That's something that you almost rarely see at the Division I level, unless it's an Air Force or an Army or a Navy. But again, I really don't think that was part of the game plan. I think Oregon State planned to throw the ball more, but with how successful the run game was, I think with not only the San Diego State game this weekend, but the Oregon game 2 weeks ahead, I think Coach Gunderson didn't really see a reason to put that, put some of those passing concepts on tape. Because again, there's really no tape on this Oregon State offense besides that past Saturday. So to me, I just kind of think he saw how successful the run game was and just kept it going because he doesn't want Oregon and San Diego State to have that advantage.
Sure. I hope our listeners do. If you are subscribed to BeaverBlitz's YouTube, you saw an interview with Lichtenhand. And Ed, he mentions in the interview that one point during the game, he looked over at Van Wells and was like, this is cool. We'd always prefer to be a predominantly run blocking, and I think he threw out like a percentage. I can't remember exactly what he said. 95. Yeah. And I think like, there's so much, like, we have tons of questions, maybe less, maybe more. We didn't lose, which is awesome. And I think it was a solid win, but we don't know a ton about Gundy's offense. Right. But it is cool that already these transfers are like, this is our identity. Like this, we're going to run the ball, we're going to.
And I liked, like Jake said, Lindgren and Langsdorff both, I think, sometimes they want it so bad to be a balanced offense that they would veer away from what was working just to get those passes in, or, it was okay. So do you think Ryan Gunderson is playing chess right now while everybody else is playing checkers? You think he was like, okay.
Absolutely.
I mean, to the fact that, okay, let's see. He had some passes ready to go, and he's like, well, F it. We don't need to pass it. We don't need to show Oregon and San Diego State what we're going to do. Close that playbook, and we're going to run it.
Sure. I would be interested in seeing like some of the breakdown between the run calls. What was that like? You know what I mean? Like what we ran. Was it like Oregon where we ran zone X amount of times? In 2022 in the fourth quarter, we ran zone X and why stop, you know?
Yeah.
We were imposing our will and we were winning a football game. But yeah, that's interesting to me. Like that's just another question. It's like, oh, okay. You know, are we,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to learn more about this team, obviously, in the weeks to come. And I think you don't want to look past San Diego State, but that Oregon game is so monumental for this program. I think just because of where Oregon State is right now and where they want to be. Thoughts on Giovanni McCoy? So he gets the nod at quarterback to get the start. We did see, a series with Giovanni or Jabari?
2. 1 during the game, 1 while the game was close. Then
yes, that's right. So we saw, but mostly it was Giovanni. First of all, were you surprised we never saw any Ben?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that speaks volumes as to maybe his place right now? Or do you think it was more just like, hey, we are going to go with these young guys right now to kind of see how they do?
I think they get paid a lot of money to play chess, and I'm playing checkers. So, you know,
yeah. I wouldn't be necessarily shocked if, it was to more of see what they have with Giovanni McCoy and Jabari Johnson in a game at this level.
Yeah.
Oregon State, Ben Gilbranson started games at this level, played a lot of football at this level. Giovanni hasn't, he's started a lot of games, but it's at the FCS level. Granted, Oregon State was playing against another FCS team, but it's still a step up. Oregon State's a Power 4, Power 5, whatever you want to call it, team. And then Jabari Johnson obviously hadn't taken a single snap of college football. So I wonder if that was maybe something, just getting those guys in and seeing what they're like during a game at this level.
Yeah.
And maybe it goes back to the chess and checkers. Maybe against Oregon, we see Ben Gilbranson come out.
Sure.
Mind blowing.
Yeah. I thought the game was actually going to be closer just because there was going to be that much more exploration as far as like, we're going to look at roster management. We're going to look at stuff. And I mean, they have so much more grasp than us, the fans. And I'm sure there's some amazingly smart, fans with a wealth of football knowledge, but like, I don't know, so you're right. Maybe there's a package that features Ben. Maybe we see more Jabari. But yeah, that was interesting. Was like, I was expecting to see more experimentation with groups, you know what I mean? Yeah. With substitutions. So,
and that was a big discussion in the lodge. Was I think a lot of people thought they would use this as kind of a practice and to see what they could do. I think Oregon State wants to keep that playbook under wraps.
First half kind of felt like a practice. Yeah. I was sweating.
Yeah, it was kind of sloppy. Digital Dam in the comments. I thought Vonnie looked great. Outside of one drop catch, he would have been perfect on the day. When was the last time that happened? Jake, you told me during the pass to David Wells that we have not seen a pass that good since the Jake Luton days, and I agree with that.
I haven't seen a deep ball, at least in game like that. I mean, like just perfectly placed where only one receiver could get it. And also, David Wells made a hell of a catch there.
Yeah, that was a big catch. I will say you said in game, and I leave clarified because I don't know if you remember your very first day at BeaverBlitz.
That was the card. I remember.
Hayden Childs did that card. It was probably the best pass I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
In the indoor facility, no less. Yeah.
I'm gonna date myself. I remember the home opener against Portland State. I think it was 2009.
Okay.
Maybe before that, but it was Sean Canfield play action to James Rogers, and I was like, "That is the prettiest."
Yeah,
thing.
Canfield
it was
a nice ball.
I feel like we were backed up too. It was like
it was
87. Yeah,
86-yard touchdown.
Yeah, you would remember that.
You seriously remember that, Jake?
Yeah.
Let me double check. I gotta look this up.
Okay. Well, and Jake also was the one. I'll date myself even more, Ty, because during the game. Then Jake elbowed me and said, if Jam is able to get, like 10 more yards, we will have 2 rushers that are over 150 each. And the last time that happened was in 94 with JJ Young and Don Shanklin. And I was like,
Shout out Jerry Pettibone.
that was my sophomore year in college.
Yeah,
I was wrong. It was 87 yards. Ty was right. I was wrong.
Yeah. Dude, that was a guess. That was a lucky guess. Actually, I knew that. Okay, I ran that pretty hard. No, but I feel like there were moments just from watching the sideline, in the heat, with Tyler Volton's family, which was awesome. Which was very cool to be with a family watching their kid go from walk on to starter to it was great.
That's awesome.
But there were a couple times when I was like, oh, does this quarterback seem comfortable right now? And then I don't know. That's between him and Gunderson. But I'll tell you that throw to David Wells, that looked like a quarterback that was tremendously confident, that had like a stillness with him, that knew where he wanted to go with the ball, both pre and post snap. And like that, that was as pretty a ball in college football as you'll see, it was pretty cool. So I guess what I'm saying is we still wait and see, but kudos. There were signs where I was like, oh, that's something to be really excited about,
Yeah,
I thought Giovanni played a really good game.
Yeah,
I did too.
I thought he went out there and did exactly what the coaching staff asked of him. The first half, the passing game was a little rough, but once they really opened it up in the second half, I thought he looked a lot more comfortable. Did exactly what they asked him to do, and I don't think as a coaching staff you can ask for any more than that.
Didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah,
Just took 1 sack, and it wasn't really a Giovanni thing. It was more of he just, the right tackle, whoever it was in that play, just got beat.
Yeah. And speaking of Pettibone in 1994, we saw some option.
Yes.
Yeah, that little speed option. Yeah.
I was like, oh.
That little Chip Kelly in that offense.
Yeah.
Kind
I
of
wonder, speaking of chess, I wonder if that's Gundy just giving people something to prepare for. Who knows?
You never know.
Yeah.
Just having some fun.
Yeah, for sure.
But this offense is going to be different. That's it is going to be different than what we've seen in the past. Okay, so defense. Oh, so wait, going back to offense, the other thing I did want to touch on that I was impressed with was a whole new coaching staff, a whole new offensive scheme, a whole new offensive coaching staff. We didn't see procedural penalties. We didn't see false starts. And
one holding.
Yeah, I think there was one. Yeah.
We
had 3 penalties at one point, and then I look at Jake and said, wow, I'm really impressed with, how clean this game is. And then Isaiah Chisholm goes out and gets 3 15-yarders in a row. So, but it was clean. From that, from other games I watched over the weekend, who had some ugly stuff going on. That Michigan State game had tons of penalties.
There wasn't any procedural penalties at all for Oregon State.
Yeah.
Like it was all personal fouls.
Yeah.
With the one on Sias, Chisholm.
And also
Chisholm.
Yeah, and also, that guy is a true sophomore.
19. Redshirt freshman, so he's 19.
Yeah. That guy, he's going to be all right. Like I trust, yeah, for sure. I trust that guy, a kid that put himself in a position to start and contribute on what is a really good defensive football. I think will be a really good defensive football team. I think that guy will adjust, man, and learn how to live in those moments,
And Coach Bray talked about it yesterday, just that you use those, both the horse collar and the targeting as a teaching moment of
the personal foul too.
Yeah, the personal foul and how it's always the second guy that reacts that gets called, and then the targeting call. He said we looked at it as a coaching staff that we needed to do a better job of teaching the guys how do you tackle a guy that's going down, or how do you tackle. So no, I think it was he'll learn, he'll be fine. Were you so the ref or the whole officiating I thought was pretty clean. They let the DBs get away with a lot, I thought.
Yeah.
I like that. I like it on both sides. Yeah. I thought that was a good test for Oregon State's DBs, because that Idaho State team could sling it.
Sure.
It's a very difficult offense to play against just because of how fast they get the ball out. It's tougher to really get in the backfield if they're, it's a set go and it's a 1-2 and they drive the ball out. Those quick like routes across the field, those quick out routes. It's tough to defend, and especially as a safety or a nickel playing deeper 7 or 8 yards off, or in the safety's case 12 yards back. Those quick outs, they're 2-3 yards. It's tough to go in there and really make those plays just because of how fast it is. But I thought Oregon State's defense did a great job. They gave up one play that was longer than 20 yards, which no matter what team you're playing is a great achievement. So, I was impressed. I was really impressed with Thomas Collins.
Yeah. Also, in Coach Hawkins, I think this team won 3 games last year. And if I remember right, I could be wrong, but they were close. They were competitive in some others, which was his first year last year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's an FCS school that's going to make some noise in the Big Sky. And that's not any consolation, but I think that is that's a offensive system that's going to be good, at that level.
I really like that the Christian Fredrickson kid. He's a good receiver.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, you guys. So I hate to interrupt this talk, but we have our special guest. He just jumped on. So we want to get him in without further ado so we can go probably eat dinner. That's my guess. We have Nico Taylor, outside linebacker, starter for the Oregon State Beavers. Just finished up with a meeting. Nico, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
We are good. You are joined here with Jake Hedberg, BeaverBlitz beat writer, and Ty Boyce, one of our contributors. I'm the publisher of BeaverBlitz. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Valley North High School in Kansas, but you were born in Oceanside, California.
Yep.
And then Hutchinson Community College, which is a huge, for those of you guys that don't know, Hutchinson is one of those big JUCO football factories. Last year, you played in 13 games and recorded 2 tackles. This year, you had your first sack, game 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that feel like it was a long time coming?
Yeah. Well, first I was like, oh, it wasn't a sack. I thought he got like a yard up field, but it wasn't until after the game they told me. So it was pretty nice. I wish I could have some more.
Okay, game 1. So I'll start, and then we're going to kind of just bounce around, let everybody ask some questions. Just super easy, fun. We just want Beaver fans to get to know you a little better. What made you commit to Oregon State?
Just the way Coach Bray ran the defense, I think it really fit the way I play football. So, he, on our recruiting visit, he told me a lot about their identity of, the defense and how they're able to fly around, play fast and physical. So, I really wanted to be a part of that. And, on the game day visit, just seeing the turnover chainsaw and, just how excited the fans got for the defense, why not be a part of that? So that's what made me commit.
Are you happy with your choice?
Yes. I love Beaver Nation. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Okay. Jake,
what's the biggest difference between your game in 2023 to your game in 2024?
Just that transition from last year to this year, I've picked up a lot of weight. So being able to defeat blocks and, be able to keep my speed, which was very important to me. But, being able to play more physical and go against the Power 5 offensive tackles. I think that was probably my biggest difference from last year.
Nico, you you're a unique case in that you really chose to ride with Oregon State through this transition, which was pretty crazy, man. By anybody's measurement, it's a pretty crazy time. You really stuck with this program. Can you speak to how you feel just choosing to be here at Oregon State really kind of helped solidify where you're at now? I mean, you already got a sack on the season,
Yeah.
How's that journey really kind of brought you to this place?
Just the way I grew up, just the way, the way my identity is as a person. I'm not the type to quit and leave on people, or if my situation isn't going good to give up. So, I knew that I had a tough season last year as far as playing time, and, a lot of people would transfer just because they're not playing. But, I told myself going into the off season that, I'm going to work for what I have, put the work in to, get where I'm at right now. So, and also, hearing the talks about Coach Bray coming back to be our head coach, I love him, and he's a great coach overall. Whether he's a head coach, a defensive coordinator, he's always dropping gems on us, and he's the whole package. So I really wanted to play for him, keep playing for him. So yeah, that's why I decided to stay.
Yeah. So Coach Bray, talk a little bit about that. Just the transition you've seen of working with him as a defensive coordinator and now to head coach. Have you seen a big difference, or is he still? He just seems so involved with the entire team, not just the defense.
Yeah, I mean, he's super active, especially at practice, bouncing back and forth between the offense. But, when he is on the defensive side, he's still correcting people and, trying to get people to play at their best. So it almost feels like not a thing has changed. It almost feels like he's still, a little bit of a defensive coordinator, but, sometimes he'll be on the offensive side. But, yeah.
Watching him on game day, he is always 20 yards behind the defense.
Yeah.
Keeping an eye on you guys.
Yeah, he got on us a little bit during the game. So, I can definitely see that he's paying attention to everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Nico, you talked about putting on some good weight. Can you talk a little bit? Because I'm sure as fans, people would love to know a little bit like what that resources are like going from even like a really great community college program to like a Power 5 program. Like, what's that like? How was that like as far as putting together a plan and training table and the resources to get you to where you are right now, which is starter?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, first there's always food, at the performance table, or like there's snacks in our little facility. So when I first got here, I was 228. And so I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like crazy, trying to get my weight up. And then after lift, we'll have our little workout shakes, which is pretty nice, but I had to do a little bit for myself outside of being in the facility, which was just some mass gainer and creatine, mixing that together. And I think that's what helped me gained a lot of good weight. But yeah, there's also a ton of resources in the facility,
Nice.
Changing your jersey number from 17 to 25, was there a specific reason behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I really had no attachment to 17, and I know that Skylar Thomas, his number is 17. He likes that number, and so I had no problem changing that, but 25 was my little league number growing up. So, being my senior season, I really wanted to play in that number.
So we have a question from someone watching us live. Digital Dam, what is your celebration going to be when you get your first pick 6 this year?
Man,
you better start playing in.
Yeah, I mean, I see myself getting pick 6s on NCAA 25, and so I'm just getting straight to it. So I really want to hold up that chainsaw this year. So probably that.
So it's going to be a silent celebration, pretty demure, and then run over to the sideline with the chainsaw.
Yeah, I think the chainsaw is probably one of the best traditions in college football.
It is pretty cool. I mean, yeah. I laughed at it at first, but it's pretty cool to see you guys do it.
Nico, can you give a shout out to Digital Dam when you get that pick 6?
Yeah. I'll say something to the camera.
Okay. Do you have any teammates that are roommates?
Yeah, 4 of them. Okay. Tyler Morano, Peyton Hogan, and then Caleb Ojeda, and then Andrew Alfieri.
Okay.
Yeah. Any
pets?
No.
No. Okay. Because I mean, all these guys have dogs now. So I was good. Okay. So, of all your teammates, who is one guy that always makes you laugh, and who is another teammate that always challenges you to be better?
Tyree Blake, he's an edge. He's always making me laugh. I'm always with him. We have the same sense of humor, so it's always a good time. And then someone who always challenges me to be better is Jam Griffin. I'm also pretty close with him, and out of nowhere, sometimes he'll just talk crazy to me, and so it pushes me to be like, I can't say it on here, but he pushes me to be better. So,
You got to keep it G-rated for the kids.
Yeah.
Jake, you have something?
Yeah. What's your go-to food spot in Corvallis? It's a tough one.
And if you don't say Local Boys or Clodfelters.
I haven't had Claude's yet.
You don't go there for the food.
What do they got there?
Huh?
What do they got there?
Beverages.
Beverages.
Yeah. Yeah, what do they got there, Jake?
Shoot. I'm always going to Chipotle. But yeah, I like to try random Mexican food spots around Corvallis. I'm big on Mexican food, especially growing up in SoCal. So yeah, I'm always trying whatever spot is on DoorDash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, Ty, what do you got?
Oh, I'm just excited to see you and Olu play 4 quarters together, man. Yeah. Like, I'm so excited about that. I know you can't say anything about how he's doing or anything like that, but I'm just so excited because having gone through camp, I don't know, I watched what you guys did and your impact on the game. It was pretty cool. So I'm just really excited to see you guys. Do you guys have a relationship?
Yeah, we came in together, and so we kind of had the same little deal going on, and so I think that made us closer. And I'm really appreciative of his game, just the way he's able to pass rush and the way he's able to get after the quarterback. And so it was always a competition in the fall between me and him, and so I think he'll be back soon too. So I think in the season it'll also be a competition of who's getting back there faster and whatnot. But he's really good.
I know who's bigger, who's quicker.
I would say him. He's pretty quick. He's slithery.
Slithery. Okay. I'm going to start using that word. We got chess and checkers going on, and we got slithery. Keith, Go Beavs 2K, who might be one of the biggest Beaver fans we know. He wants to know, is there a particular road game environment you're looking forward to facing this season, or a particular player you're looking forward to go against?
I wouldn't say a particular player. I think everybody's the same to me, and also every game is the same to me. But I'm really excited to play against Boise State away. I think they have a pretty good environment, and the fans are good there. And isn't their turf blue?
It is
Smart
blue.
turf. Yeah.
Yeah. So and also it's going to be pretty cold. So I think that's a pretty good environment to play in. Not a lot of people will get to do that.
Is there any player, or actually, I'm not going to go there. Any advice? What is the best piece of advice you could give young athletes?
Don't run away from hardships that you face. I really like to stand on that, because a lot of people like to quit on their dreams and what they want to do and aspire to be. So, even when you face those hardships, keep persevering through it, and everything will be okay.
Great. I know there's a lot of.
I'm ready to run through a wall right now.
I know. I know there's lots of young Beaver fans out there. I mean, you see them after the game; they're all looking for gloves and high fives.
Jake and I were those Beaver fans.
Wait, where y'all from? Oregon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother played. Actually, used to be number 17. Was an outside linebacker. And before him was a dude named Kane Rogers that wore number 17. So that's what's up. I'm glad you got number 25, but either way,
yeah.
And they both, his older brother, and Kane Rogers were there when I went to school there. So that's how old I am. I'm really old. I was there in the mid 90s, and so football then was not great at Oregon State, but I was at every game. and we would celebrate if they beat the spread. So they had some really good athletes. So Tim Alexander was like the number 1 rated option quarterback back in the day, and he came to Oregon State. And anyway, and Jake is our walking encyclopedia. Who, Jake, you've been a Beaver believer since you were born. And what was the first game you remember, Jake? What year?
Remember or like went to?
Well, you went to one like in what, 2002?
Yeah, 2002 was my first game. First game I remember was 2006.
Okay.
So what's the majority of people in Oregon? What are they like as far as Oregon State or University?
That other school?
They're either Oregon State or dumb.
That other, or dumb.
Okay.
Well, I think what you'll see, I mean, what's funny is, I mean, there's a little joke out there that you see people wearing Beaver gear, and it's just because they went to Oregon State, and you see people wearing Duck gear, and it's because they went to Walmart.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
Because they just bandwagon, have fun.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about those other guys.
Okay.
Until you guys beat them in 2 weeks.
For sure.
Okay, Nico, we'll let you run to training tables. We don't want to stand in the way of your meal, and we appreciate you taking time to join us, and hope you'll do it again down the road.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Keep up all the good work.
Thank you.
Thank
Good luck,
Nico.
and stay healthy.
Thank you.
That's fun. I love having the players on.
Yeah. What a nice kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm like a nice kid. That guy's a giant.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to take a quick break just for the podcast side of things. And then we're going to go back. We're going to be back to talk about San Diego State because another big game coming up. So we're going to take a quick little actually, if you're watching us live and you're not a member of BeaverBlitz, you have like 3 hours to jump on our best promo ever. 75% off an annual membership. It gets you a full year of all the BeaverBlitz coverage inside the lodge for $26.85 total. That's $2.24 a month, guys. Best deal. It ends at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So jump on it and join us because you'll read Ty's work, Jake's work. We have Peter and Raju's SmackDown. We have JP's weekly walk-off during baseball. So much good stuff. Do it now. Okay, and we are back to preview San Diego State. It's so fun to have stuff to talk about, even though we didn't see a whole lot of that offense. But San Diego State, Beavs are hitting the road, which road games are never easy, especially those 7:30 kicks, because they have to figure out how to kind of stay motivated and tuned in all day long. Last year's Aztecs finished 4-8. First-year head coach. This is the battle of two first-year head coaches, or first-year Sean Lewis with Trent Bray. How does OSU match up in this matchup, Jake?
I think these are two pretty similar teams, actually. I feel like they're teams that are going to go out there and try and run the football. San Diego State's breaking in a true freshman quarterback in Danny O'Neal. No relation to the former Duck Danny O'Neal. But they possess one of the best running backs in the country in Marquez Cooper. I believe he's I'm not confident on this, but I believe he's the leading active rusher in college football in terms of career rushing yardage. Has 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons at Kent State and Ball State, then came out in his San Diego State debut and rushed for just about 225 yards and 2 scores. So it's going to be a back that's going to challenge this Oregon State defense, going from a team in Idaho State that barely ran the football to a team that's going to come and try and pound the ball down your throat. One thing that the coaching staff has kind of touched on is this is a team that's really similar to Oregon State. And they've seen similar offensive stuff in practice and similar defensive stuff in practice. So I think that's something that it's going to play to both teams' advantages. Should be a pretty good game, I think. I'm excited to see how it plays out on Saturday.
Ty, what are your initial thoughts?
I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I think it's going to have, this is all like real basic stuff, obviously, but I think there's turnovers are going to be a factor. I'm really, really hopeful that our pass rush shows up and makes who looks to be going to be a really good quarterback. And not to take anything away from him, but I think that making him uncomfortable, get out of rhythm, And then also, yeah, I mean, I think that both teams, like Jake said, both teams' run games should take this pretty personally. And I think that a lot of people may want to discredit this San Diego State team. And I think that would be an unfortunate mistake because I think playing on the road, again, there's so much new with Oregon State playing on the road down there, which like you saw their fans. I mean, I don't know if school's in session. I don't know where California's at on yeah. But like from what I watched, those fans were about it. They were there. There was dudes with painted stomachs and people with crazy hats and all. Like they were a loud, ruckus audience for game one. And also they're going to have a chip on the shoulder. They're playing what is a Power 5 team. A Power 5 team, former Power 4 team, whatever you want to define it. I think that this is as big a matchup as will be on the schedule with all things considered, you know, especially with how much new that we're trying to figure out offensively and defensively. So,
yeah. And it's just that next step, you know, Oregon State opens with Idaho State, which, like I said, their offense, they can throw the ball. But this San Diego State team is just going to be bigger, faster, stronger. Just the next step for Oregon State to kind of prepare. I agree with Jake that this team is very similar to Oregon State on offense and defense. What they're going to be hard-nosed, smash mouth, aggressive football.
Tons of transfers, tons of like people that are new to the locker room that are like absorbing the culture, you know? Yeah. So like both teams are like trying to like put their heels in the ground and figure out what kind of football team they're going to be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a pivotal game, early season pivotal game.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they're trying to figure their identities out. Both of you guys have played sports. How tough is it for these like late night road games just to stay? I mean, they try to keep everything as similar as possible, you know, get up, have their breakfast, meetings, but then you have that kind of afternoon lull where things could kind of, how do you keep guys motivated?
I mean, I only played in high school, so because I feel like it's different because I had class all day, and then we'd go and take the bus, which would just and then you'd be there. Like you just take the bus, and you get there, go through your pregame stuff. So can't really speak to how. I mean, I don't really know how similar that is because they're.
I guess in high school though too. I mean, these guys all played high school football. I mean, and Ty, you did as well.
Yeah.
So it's not. Yeah, they're used to night game, but they're used to night games at that level. Yeah. I mean.
Well, with my time in the National Football League, I can tell you, no, I don't know. I played for a program that was kind of like, they really got to be kind of a juggernaut in years subsequently, probably because I left. But I always really enjoyed road games because you kind of had to absorb the other team's culture, you know? Whereas, like, I went to a very sweet Christian school at times, like, who maybe they were just like, we're so glad that we have a football team in pads. Like, we'd go to a place that's like on the other end of Oregon, like Eastern Oregon, and it's dark and scary, and there's some dude banging some weird drum, and you're like, what? And I always liked that. It always kind of fired me up in that regard. And, you know, I mean, regardless of how Snapdragon Stadium is Saturday night, they're going to play in as tough or tougher environments this season. So here we go.
Okay, but I almost think it's harder for the Beavs to go on the road at like Cal or Stanford, where there's no environment.
That's a good point.
In my opinion, that's harder because then you actually have to manufacture your own. You can't necessarily use that hostile environment to build yourself up. Jake, who are some players? You mentioned the running back, the quarterback. Anybody else that Oregon State fans should be aware of on that Aztec roster?
Yeah, you know, outside of Cooper, who's going to be the guy, you know, he's going to get the majority of the touches. This is a retooled team offensively. They brought in a transfer from Colorado State and Lewis Brown, who had a big touchdown catch on Saturday from Danny O'Neill. They have another returning receiver, and I don't know how to say. I think it's Shaw. It's a smaller guy. Then defensively, it's again, this team lost a lot to the transfer portal. They lost Zaris Faseo, that they lost pretty much the majority of their secondary. But a safety who had a really good game on Saturday was Eric Butler. He had 7 or 8 tackles, and you know he seemed to be kind of leader of that defense. A guy who I was kind of expecting to play a bigger role was Kyle Moretti, who transferred in from Central Michigan. Had a fantastic career there with the Chippewas and isn't listed as a starter. Had a handful of tackles on Saturday, so maybe we kind of see him take on a bigger role on Saturday because he's got a lot of Division I college football experience and he's played at a high level at his prior school.
Got it. Digital Dam has a good point here, and this is I think where I've been preseason with the first game is because I want to see how different this team is on the road compared to the previous regime's lack of preparation. And I would almost say that was the case, Riley, Anderson, Smith. So I want to see how the staff, prepares these guys on the road.
I mean, if you look at it, Oregon State, over the last 3 years of Jonathan Smith's tenure, they had 14 losses, okay? 14. Of those 14, 2 were neutral site bowl games. And then I believe only 2 were at home, USC and Washington. So that means 10
and those
of their
were what by a combined like
6 points
or 6
5
points?
points
Yeah,
combined.
both. Yeah,
5 points combined. 6 points. 5 points.
It was 5. It was 5.
So 10 of Oregon State's 14 losses, plus two others also were traveling games in the bowl games. 12 of their 14 losses over the past 3 seasons have been away from Reser Stadium. So that is kind of that's an average of 4 games per season. So I do feel like that's safe to say Oregon State struggled because you usually only get 5 or 6 road games. So that's, if you're losing 4 road games a season, that's over half of your road games.
That's huge.
Which is a big swing, and that's the difference between competing at a bowl game level and competing for a spot in the college football playoff. So I am pretty intrigued to see how Trent Bray attacks it because it is a challenge for any coach, especially first-year coach, but confident he can get it done. I feel like he's got the right mindset, the football first, everything else second, which I don't know. It's easier to have confidence in Trent Bray than Jonathan Smith, which is kind of crazy to say, but just the confidence that they exude. I feel like Trent Bray is a very confident individual. He said in his press conference yesterday, said, I don't get nervous. I just walk in and play football or coach football. So, I feel like having a coach that exudes confidence like that, I feel like it has to rub off on the team.
Sure. And then, like JEH58 says, please no fake field goals on 4th and 9 from the 13-yard line. And that's, I was going to say, a lot of Oregon State's losses on the road were because of stupid play calls. Self-inflicted. They were self-inflicted. So I'm anxious. That is where I'm anxious. I told you before half, I was anxious to see how the coaching staff handled halftime and adjustments, because sometimes we saw Oregon State make adjustments. Sometimes we didn't during the past 3 regimes. The other thing that kind of, and we saw, I told Jake, I said, I bet there's some F-bombs flying in that locker room right about now. Yeah. And I have a feeling Trent Bray was a little fired up going into half.
I thought the difference in the second half and the first half was pretty noticeable. While
it was noticeable.
Granted, the first half was 17-9. The second half score was 21-6. Not much of a difference there. I just thought the way the team looked and the energy they had, defensively especially, and offensively, I thought in the second half the offense looked gelled and just played a lot smoother, especially in the passing game. I thought the passing
they looked more confident.
They looked a lot more confident, yeah, and I think that's the Trent Bray effect. Obviously at this point, we don't really know how Ryan Gunderson is in the locker room yet because we've only seen a game of him, but we've seen 7 years of Trent Bray at Oregon State now, and we know how he carries himself and what to expect. And it's all about the confidence that Trent Bray brings. And I thought what the team did in the second half kind of personifies what Trent Bray is as a coach. Confidence, aggressive, and that's what I saw from Oregon State in the second half of that football game.
Like I said earlier, I just don't want Gundy to get this mindset like we've seen from our past offensive coordinators, where it's like they're so dead set in their balanced attack that they're trying to pound a square peg through a round hole. And that's just abandon the run. I mean, I look back to that Washington game last year Oregon State abandoned the run in that last drive when they could have just ran. They were running it at will.
Damian Martinez had one of his, in my opinion, that was Damian Martinez's best game as a Beaver.
Yeah.
It may not have been statistically, but
he ran hard.
He ran hard against a team that lost the national championship, and he kept Oregon State in it. And not even just Dame. I thought running the ball with DJ in that game was super effective as well. Not to talk about last year, but
that's where I was pleasantly surprised in this game. Now, maybe that was just an anomaly, but I felt like they weren't trying to get cute. Like, oh, gee, we've been running it so well. We better try to throw in a few passes here and have it.
Again, I thought what they did was work the run to the point where the passing game opened up. You know, that the touchdown drive, the one play touchdown drive. You know, Oregon State had come out and run the ball a lot prior to that, and Oregon State sent Zach Carden in motion. The defense expected the run. The linebackers dropped in. I mean, Jordan Anderson even was wide open there in the middle of the field, and we were like, oh, throw it to Jordan Anderson, but then just a great throw from Giovanni McCoy to David Wells. And, you know, again, that's drawing the defense in, you know. It's working them for two and a half quarters of just pounding the football, and then they bottom the play action, and Oregon State gets a beautiful touchdown pass out of it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I'll be excited to see us kind of attack the edges a little bit more too with the rush game as well. You know, we'll see. Yeah.
I'm excited to kind of see the tight ends take on a bigger role. I mean, there were 6 tight ends that played on Saturday. Don't believe there were any targets, although it looked like they might have been trying to hit Jermaine Terry in the flat on that sack that Jabari Johnson took. But you know, I thought a guy like Jermaine Terry and Bryce Caulfield both had pretty strong camps, and I do think it's coming. But I was a little surprised to see the lack of involvement from the tight ends in the passing game.
But Gundy did mention them today, the tight ends, for their blocking and how important they were.
I mean, I remember Jermaine Terry missed one block, but outside of that, I thought it was pretty clean.
Pretty clean. We have a comment in the chat here because we're kind of moving over toward questions. Kevin Shoemaker here on our YouTube chat. As a group, I saw our running backs being intelligent and purposeful and patient with their runs. They seem mature above everyone's first game. What are your comments there?
I think those are backs that have played a lot of football, you know, and an offensive line that's played a lot of football, a lot more football than I think people give them credit for, because, like, you know, the summation of all their parts, I think there's a lot of starts on the offensive line. So I think that's I think that's a mature that's a mature rushing football team, you know.
I mean, they've got multiple guys with multiple years of starting experience. You know, Tank started for 2 years. Dan Wells started for 2 years. Gray's started for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Strand got a few games. Stark started for 2 years at Nevada, started 5 games last year. Just a handful of guys and some talented young guys as well. As, you know, we saw Luka Vincic play a lot of football. We saw Jacob Strand come in off the bench and play a lot of football. Overall, I think they've got 8 to 9, even stretching and adding Xander Esty, 10 guys that they feel confident throwing out there, which is, with Coach M, we kind of saw a 6-man rotation and that was it. But I feel like with Coach DeVan, you're going to see guys like Vincic, guys like Gonzalez, guys like Strand. You could see up to 8 guys consistently play, which is something that I feel like is becoming a lot more common in football.
Yeah, all across the board. And that's Gundy mentioned that today about the running backs and just the team in general. He said this isn't 2006 Oregon State where Evanson Bernard is going to run every, you know, have all 36 touches. You know, this is going to be, they want guys fresh. They don't want, you know, Hank at the end of the game just exhausted because he had 35 touches. They want everyone fresh at the end of the game should they need them. So
look at all of it too. Like, I mean, that's you know,
and then you have Reichel, and I mean, you have the other guys too that are right there. I mean, that's a deep room, and we've said that all along, but we saw it firsthand.
Bright future in that.
Yeah, super. So Connor Johnson in the chat just want to know who's starting first half for Chisholm. Dexter Foster, you think, or
I think it'll be
Sullivan?
I would believe it'll be Sullivan. will be that guy. And he's a guy that I know. I know that Ty and I have talked about this a lot, but I think Aiden Sullivan had a really strong camp.
Yeah.
I think he might be the best. Yeah, and Jairus Goodman as well, and Foster. So really, Oregon State has a plethora of options.
Yeah.
But I would imagine it'll be Aiden Sullivan.
Don't have a ton of questions in the lodge, but we've had a couple here asking about some of the guys that did not play, including Tyji Hill, DJ Westlock, Darius Clemens, Grant Stark. None of them are out long term, is all we know.
Yeah, was it addressed with Westlock? I never heard it addressed. Like why?
I don't remember seeing him on the field from Saturday, but he might not have been in Jersey. I don't know. I also wasn't really looking. But Clemens, Olu, and Taiji, Coach Bray said, he's hopeful to see them on Saturday. I feel like Clemens and Omatosha are probably the likeliest out of those two. And then pivoting over to Grant Stark, Coach Trent Bray didn't necessarily address Stark because no one asked him about it, and he's not going to talk about it if no one asks him about it. But Coach Gunderson said he believes everyone's going to be available, so I'm kind of grouping Stark into that. So sounds like he'll be good to go. Not sure if he got hurt, if they just wanted to get some younger guys some burn, but anticipating all of those guys.
Yeah.
You guys got to know they are so tight-lipped on injuries.
Yeah,
it's definitely worse.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot tighter than it was under Smith.
I mean, if I'm preparing for Olu Omatosho, it's going to be a different game. I mean, if I'm going to prepare for Grant Stark, there's a lot of tape on Grant Stark. Even though he was a huge contributor last year, maybe not a starter. I mean, it's a different game plan for those guys,
It's a different player that you want to attack necessarily, rather a guy who started almost 25 football games,
Yeah. I'm giving a shout out. I'm not, there's no connection here, but I happened to watch Micaiah Tung's video vlog that he does. And if you don't watch it, I don't catch them all, but it's really interesting to watch kind of day in the life of a student athlete. He actually can no longer film in the training room because the coaches don't want it, showing who might be injured and working out in the training room. So yes, it's very tight-lipped.
That's another guy like Alton Julian and him, and you're like, God, I want so bad for you.
Because I love Tung at the linebacker spot.
He was awesome.
The fall camp that we saw from Micaiah in the first two games that we saw from Micaiah, like he was a legit third linebacker.
The play he got hurt he made a huge play.
Yeah, I remember watching him in the spring game. He reacted almost across the field, and I was like, that's a fast linebacker, man.
It seemed a lot more natural. I mean, size-wise, 6'2", 225. He's the perfect size for that. He's a little bigger for a receiver, but he's the perfect inside backer. And he's got the speed. Obviously, has the hands. I thought he was going to have a real special 2023 and, if healthy, 2024. But
you got Megatron out there playing middle linebacker. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
And talk about going back to the old days. His dad was pretty special back in
Reggie.
When I was Reggie he was a bright spot. Okay, I'm going to throw this at you guys because we are out of time, but we're going to do this each week. So now just come prepared. I need your game ball for the Idaho State game. Who are you giving it to?
Jam.
Jam.
First game back in Corvallis. First game with his daughter in attendance as well, which I'm sure is a super special game for him. Runs for 8 yards a carry, $160, 2 scores, has his best game as a Beaver. I don't know. I don't think Oregon State was really missing Damian Martinez too much on Saturday, and Jam Griffin was a huge part of
that. Purely to not piggyback off of your very smart answer, I'm going to say Thomas Collins.
Yeah, that was my other.
Yeah. But I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I was just kind of looking at an overview. There's some guys that stood out. Jam, obviously, and Thomas Collins. Hankerson, obviously.
Yeah.
And I thought Skylar Thomas, that was a good story. Him coming back after his ACL, have an interception. But
Conne getting his first.
And Jack Conne getting his first. That was pretty cool too.
There was I was watching the game with like in the big group of us, there's a couple teenage girls, and they were like, how cute Skylar Thomas was. It was like, and he's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He's a cool interview.
Yeah. Oh, and in the comments, we have the O-line.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All
The
10
big
of them.
fellas, those big fellas up front don't get a lot of attention, but they did have a great game. So, guys, are we ready? San Diego State week is here.
Week 2.
Thank you. Week 2. Beavs are 1-0. Cougs are 1-0. The Pac-12 is the only undefeated Power 4, Power 5 conference.
Whose victory was more impressive for you? I know we got to go. Whose victory was more impressive for you guys? Washington State over Portland State or Oregon State over Idaho State?
Wazoo's.
Yeah, it was
I
pretty.
thought with
Their
quarterback,
offense looked good. Yeah.
John Mateer. I thought he had a hell of a game.
Yeah, I thought their offense, the little pieces I saw, their offense looked pretty explosive. So, again, chess and checkers, though. I'm holding out that the Beavs were playing chess right now, and
Sure.
the Beaver offense is going to be explosive.
I mean, I think going to Washington State super quickly, I think we're going to learn a lot about them playing Texas Tech on Saturday. It's a big opportunity for them to host a Big 12 school in Pullman. I really hope they can put Texas Tech away.
Yeah,
We didn't even talk about the not plans for the continuation with the Mountain West, allegedly.
I know. Well, that'll be for a week, maybe a bye week. We can talk about that.
You got to talk about it in the lodge.
Well,
You got to talk about it in the lodge. That's
yeah. It's well, and then we have the joint thread with Kook Fan. So that thread has like over 330,000 comments on it and views. So that's a fun one. So yes, last chance, guys. Remember, if you're not in Blitz, you're going to be sorry you didn't take advantage of 75% off. But Jake, Ty, and I will be in the lodge on game night, and we'll be back next week for another episode of the Damn Podcast.